Um, So, right. Okay, let's start. All right, I'm gonna take the microphone here. Yeah. Okay, so hello, welcome to this special event, which I called arbitrarily Nécessités de base, or basic necessities, with a bunch of special guests, more than what we thought. So we have a special guest, Nestor Siré, who is here from Cuba. But then we will be joined soon, and he's in the audience, Jean-Jacques Lachapelle, who is the director of the MA, le Musée de Rouyn-Noranda, who curated the show. And we are already joined by Nestor's collaborator, Steffen Köhn. I want to thank the bilingual program of communication at Glendon for hosting this event. And now I'm going to do it in French. Bonjour, bienvenue à cette conférence titrée Nécessités de base avec Nestor Siré. Siré rejoint ici par Jean-Jacques Lachapelle, qui est le directeur général du MA, le Musée d'art de Rouyn-Noranda, et la participation spéciale en ligne de Steffen Köhn, qui joint de Europe. Merci au programme de communication bilingue à Glendon d'avoir accueilli cette conférence et ma classe qui est ici. So before we start, I would like to read the statement of acknowledgement of traditional land. Glendon, as part of York University, acknowledges its presence on the traditional territory of many indigenous nations. The area known as Toronto has been caretaken by the Anishinaabe Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Huron-Wendat, and the Métis. It is now home to many indigenous people. We acknowledge the current treaty holders, the Mississaugas of the New Credit First Nation. And this territory is a subject of the Dish with One Spoon, One Poon Belt Covenant, which is an agreement to peacefully share and care for the Great Lakes region. Glendon, en tant que partie intégrante de l'Université York, reconnaît sa présence dans les territoires traditionnels de nombreuses nations autochtones. La région connue comme Toronto a été préservée par la nation Anishinaabe, la Confédération Haudenosaunee, les Hurons-Wendat et les Métis. Elle est désormais les foyers d'un grand nombre de peuples autochtones. Nous reconnaissons les titulaires actuels du traité, la première nation de Mississaugas de New Credit. Ce territoire est soumis au traité de la ceinture Wampum, Dish with One Spoon, en tant que définissant le partage et la préservation pacifique de la région des Grands Lacs. Okay, so welcome to this event. This event is going to be in English and a little bit in French, and then yeah, if you need any translation, we have subtitles. In the spirit of the by an multilingualism that characterizes London, I am happy to feature lively cross-contamination of languages and culture, and feel comfortable to address us in English, in French, or also in Italian or in Spanish, as you wish. Je vais le dire en français avec mon français, italien, anglais, dans l'esprit du multi-bilingualisme qui caractérise Glendon. Je suis heureuse de présenter une contamination de plusieurs langues et de cultures. Si à tout moment vous avez questions en anglais, français ou espagnol, n'hésitez pas à hésiter. Okay, so here is how we proceed this talk. So we are moving to actor Nestor. Nestor will present his work. Can you introduce yourself and do your work? And then we will briefly turn to Jean-Jacques and then to Steffen, who is waiting for us in Europe, and it's very late for him. So
I start sharing now.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, thank you very much for coming, and thank you to you for the invitation. More than happy to be able to talking with you guys and have a a moment for share the project that I am working and my interest is as a human being, as an artist. I am a visual artist from Cuba. I have a background as a painter, but I'm working a lot in multimedia project. I think I'm more like a new media based artist, but for me, I am more interested in ideas. I try to decide after what type of media is better for each idea. And this is why normally I working with projects that have like more than one media together or are more focused in this idea of experience of the audience and interaction with the audience. I more or less like the center of my work is around creativity, social creativity. I am very interested in how the people from not just from Cuba, from different parts of the world, find different ways to have like sometimes simple, sometimes complicated solutions for different things in relation with materials, in the relation with informal economy, in relation with software development, like but most, I think like most of my work is focused in Cuba reality, and I am very interested in how the technology is changing realities in different countries. But in the case of Cuba, is like in a very peculiar way. We'll just get internet for first time like in 2018 at MON, like a mobile data for first time, from the like from this always like, and many of these like situation, like not just the situation with the technology, also the situation with the like the political and the economical situation and the embargo from the United States make so many like peculiar situations in the country. As an artist, I develop different projects in relation with this reality. The first project that I want to share with you is Informal Archive. That is a project that I am working from 2014. This project is very focused in the idea of creativity. More or less, I am using from 2014. I am using like a different digital media to share creative practice from Cuba. When I start to traveling as an artist, I try to see, like a parallel about this type of practice in different parts of the world. Even when are like countries that really no need to develop in this type of practice, because you can just go into some store and buy new things. The humans find a way to, keeping repairing things and keeping recycled things for different reasons. And Cuba Creativa is focused on that. I started the project using Instagram. Like the first time I get online and I get, some social media was, I was like very focused on Instagram. And the name of the project is coming because, it's a hashtag coming from this platform. I think this project is also very focused in the idea of knowledge and shared knowledge and information and access to information, but also focusing this idea of practice that, most of the time just disappear, like when some people find some way to, do it something, if at some point, can just completely disappear because all this like a social practice are in continuous, like constantly change. And this is why it's another thing that are very interesting to me, like not just, not just engage this practice, is also archiving this practice. And for example, one of the, another part of the project is that I do these small videos when are a type of like this video have like the aesthetic is very similar to a tutorial from internet or some like a YouTube tutorials, but focusing practice that are existing in Cuba. And for example, this one was about pirate video games in Cuba. But I have like things that coming from different parts of the world. The project is not, at some point when I started the project was just focusing my experience directly with the reality. But at some point, I know so many artists, so many friends from different parts of the world, and they start to send me information from different parts of the world. And I start to understand, like, or thinking more like this was like more global, practice. And this is why I am right now developing this wiki. And the idea is that it's not just me recording this practice. Is more like a open and free space when the people can recording his own realities in this wiki, and also find like another ways to do it, the same things. Right now the project, like for the exhibition that I am doing here, I am using this graphic that is a kind of like is a kind of representation of different concepts that I am finding in different parts of the world. Like, for example, in different parts of the world, we have sometimes like words or concepts that can explain some kind of practice that are close to the idea of informal economy or recycle or reuse. And I just archiving this concept also for understand how it's working in different, countries. And this is the show that I have right now in Canada, that is a kind of representation of this process in a way of like with a shape of video installation in a gallery. I wanna speak a little bit more about specifically another part of the project, and Jean-Jacques, you will come, and you will come after. Also, I am just not interested to archiving. I am also interested as an artist in try to intervene this reality and try to understand the position of the artist in relation with this social practice. And one of the things that I am also presenting here is this machine that you are seeing right now is a guarapera. We'll say this is the name in Cuba. It's a machine for make sugarcane juice. And it's like a super popular. Also, in Cuba, we was in the past the #1 country that produced sugarcane in the world. Right now, it's a kind of like just a memory, because with the revolution, the revolution that just changed all the economy of the country. And one of the things that they almost disappeared for the country was the production of sugarcane. And this is like a kind of metaphor about ideas from the past, from when Cuba was like a more productive country. And also like is the I don't know, it's a kind of like is a way to be close to this like history for Cubans. Like we completely like lost the contact with this idea of produce or use sugar cane for whatever, but we'll keep in consuming sugarcane use every day in all the cities. And as an artist, I was like very interested in the machine, because these machines are always different. Like it's not like a one type of machine. It's not like a factory that produced this type of machine in Cuba. it's not it's impossible from a Cuban citizen like a buy in more international platform some things that and bring to Cuba, because these machines are very heavy and Cubans don't have access to buy things outside Cuba. And this is why like the machines are always produced for different people, like, and sometimes these people are completely autodidact, like they don't have any background as a designer or mechanic. Like sometimes the people like fix your car doing the machine for you and you are open the business. And for me it was very interesting, you know, how these things work. And I start to thinking that maybe from you know, a collaboration and a multidisciplinary team we could develop a better design. We could update and try to find an older design for these vernacular machines. In Cuba, we're working for at least like 3 years. I think this is my project from the time of the pandemic. Like we'll start to working, like I started working in collaboration with Copincha, that is the first hacker lab in Havana. And after like many talks and after many, you know, after a lot of work, we'll come in with this design for create a sugar like cane machine that can like be produced in Cuba with the type of material that we can find in Cuba. And the idea was like try to create this type of manual. And if you, in the future, an older Cuban citizen or another people in the world want to, you know, building a machine, it's more focused for Cuba because it's just in relation with the type of material that we can find in Cuba. But if the future the people want to do it, they could use this. It's a kind of completely open design. And this is a way that I am also exhibit in the museum here. With some like a 3D print models. We actually have like the machine in metal, like in real material, but it was too heavy to bring to Canada. Okay, Jean-Jacques.
Je vais devoir m'asseoir.
With the
yeah. Alors, bonjour tout le monde. Mon nom est Jean-Jacques Lachapelle. Je suis le directeur général et conservateur en chef du Musée d'art de Rouyn-Noranda. Rouyn-Noranda est situé à 6h30 de Toronto, dans le nord. C'est dans une région minière, une des plus riches régions minières du Canada. Yeah. So I'm the director and chief conservator, curator of the Rouyn-Noranda Museum, 6 hours and a half from here in the north. It's a rich region of gold, so there is a lot of mine there. So the city was born with that, with the mine. Donc la région là-bas, la ville où je suis est née de l'implantation d'une exploitation de mines d'or. Donc, ça a été un boom town. Donc, en 1926, ils ont découvert le premier filon d'or. Le centre d'exposition, en fait, c'était un centre d'exposition et maintenant, c'est devenu un musée. So, it was in 1926 that they find the first gold filon, I don't know in English. And so the city was a boom town. And I'm in Rouyn-Noranda at the direction of the museum since 9 years now. Donc, je suis à la direction du musée depuis 9 ans. Le projet est Site de rencontre avec l'art. C'est un projet qui a été initié par un professeur d'Université du Québec en Abitibi-Témiscamingue. L'idée de ce professeur était finalement de fournir à ses étudiants de futurs professeurs en art des références de différents artistes. Et nous avions le projet d'aller à Cuba rencontrer des artistes là-bas et de les mettre en contact, en fait, avec également des artistes de l'Abitibi-Témiscamingue. So the project in which we invite Cuban artists was initiated by a teacher in the University of Quebec on Abitibi-Témiscamingue. And the idea was to furnish for the future teacher of art that are studying there some reference of artists from different parts of the world and also from Abitibi-Témiscamingue. Donc, nous avons commencé par faire un site web. Je ne sais pas si... can we find the website?
Yep.
Site de rencontre avec l'art. Maybe we can share it. Just, on peut retrouver le site web, donc, et site. Donc, le site de rencontre avec l'art, bien sûr, faire un clin d'œil avec faire un clin d'œil à l'idée des sites de rencontre. Et
No, what?
No, I can see it. You can see your face. But
Yeah.
ah, OK.
You need to
Sharing.
unshare and then share.
Yeah, I know.
OK. But it's okay. You can find it on the website. It's in Spanish.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
It's in Spanish and French. So, donc, vous pouvez le trouver, le site en ligne. Il contient, il y a 5 artistes cubains et 5 artistes de l'Abitibi-Témiscamingue qui sont présentés dans ce projet. Nous avons travaillé avec Reinier Guerra Capote, qui est un curateur cubain qui a fondé Colonne Culturale, qui est un lieu pour faire vivre l'art dans un quartier qui est juste à côté du quartier touristique du centre de la Havane. So we I've built this website with 5 Cuban artists and 5 artists from Abitibi-Témiscamingue, and with Reinier Guerra, who is a curator from Cuba, from La Havane, and he found Colonne Culturale, with an organism who tried to share art in the neighborhood that's very near from the touristic zone, so but that lacks from cultural activity for the people that lives there. So here we have done this in 2018. 18, yeah. And then we were supposed to present the show in the museum at 2021, but with the pandemic, we didn't. We report this to this summer. Donc, on a élaboré le site web en 2019, et on devait présenter en vrai dans les salles d'exposition le show en 2021, mais en raison de la pandémie, ça a été impossible de réaliser l'exploit. Donc, nous l'avons fait cet été. Donc, travailler avec nous, en fait, le musée, on s'est donné 3 mandats spécifiques. Celui de comprendre la réalité artistique locale, de travailler avec les peuples indigènes, autochtones du Canada et d'ailleurs aussi, et également d'explorer toute la question de l'Amérique. Parce que trop souvent, finalement, on regarde du côté de l'Europe et sans doute à cause de la langue, au Québec, on travaille beaucoup avec la France, avec de plus en plus avec l'Afrique à Rouyn-Noranda, mais on oublie souvent l'Amérique. So we are 3 objectives in this museum is to explore the local artistic activity, to work with indigenous. We are in Anishinaabe zone too, there, and to explore also the idea of the Americ or the Americs, Americas. So because we are French people mainly there, and we are oriented to France many times, or to Europe in general, and we forgot to check what happened in the America in general. So we had done a project with Mexico, Cuba, Haiti, and with the pandemic, we were stuck a little bit, but donc on a fait des projets avec Haïti, Cuba, Mexique. Avec la pandémie, on a un peu arrêté nos projets à l'international, mais c'est quand même intéressant. À ce sujet, justement, travailler avec Cuba a été très intéressant. Et avec les autres, ce que ça nous indique finalement de travailler dans les Amériques, d'abord, il y a les langues, mais ça, c'est une question de toute façon qu'on a même à l'intérieur du Canada, pour toutes sortes de raisons. Particulièrement en étant sensible, nous, au fait que les langues autochtones se perdent déjà là. Il y a comme tout un travail qu'on tente de faire avec des organismes autochtones de revaloriser les langues autochtones. Et en Amérique, en général aussi, il y a beaucoup de langues autochtones. Donc, la question de la langue ne devrait pas trop influencer. So we working with Cuba is a challenge, first for the language, but in the same time, language is always a challenge elsewhere in the world and elsewhere in Canada, because there are many languages, but also many language of indigenous people too, that we forgot to valorate. At the museum, we are working with organisms who are trying to valorize indigenous language. So, I'm long. Donc, l'exposition, site de rencontre avec l'art. Tu peux remettre les images. You can share your now your
Okay.
Your exhibition. So we have presented. Donc, nous avons présenté Donc, nous avons présenté 4 artistes cubains dans la grande salle avec Régnière. Donc, avec Nestor, pardon. Donc, Nestor a présenté vraiment tout son projet qui était sur la créativité, qu'on retrouve un peu partout. Et dans la carte, comme il vous le disait tantôt, il a indiqué les différents concepts de créativité. Et au Québec, nous avons un nom pour nommer ce type de créativité-là, c'est les patenteux. Donc, je lui ai informé. Donc, maintenant, il va rajouter dans sa carte les patenteux du Québec. So, we present 4 artists, a Cuban artist in this room, Nestor, with this about creativity. And I show him that we have a term in Quebec to design people who are doing invention without trying to it's a patenteux. And it's a free right invention. And so it's a concept that exists in Quebec. In other, we don't see it, but we have a photograph from Georges Otero from La Havana too, but now he is living mostly in United States. And he is working with the concept of how is the name of the habitant in okay, it's like a folkloric vision of Cuban man with
Guajiro.
Guajiro.
Yeah.
And so he is working with that that concept. So it's and another artist is Nestor Alvarez, who this one is working with the idea of the painting. Many times his painting is like an object, and also with the light. And he has built a room where there is a pellicle on which, when we touch it a long time, the shadow of us rests in the wall. So it's very funny to see it. It's like a memory of the cavern and the first painting of the world, the human have done. So, donc, dans deux autres artistes, il y a Jorge Otero qui utilise en fait le concept très folklorique qui interroge finalement l'idée très folklorique du cubain à travers une série de photographies très raffinées, où on voit un homme qui a quelques éléments du folklore cubain, en fait, et qui crée un contraste, entre autres en utilisant la nudité, mais aussi en tressant les photos entre elles, en créant une matière qui ressemble en fait à une technique de tressage très courante à Cuba. Un autre artiste, lui, va utiliser beaucoup la couleur, la lumière, la peinture, qui deviennent presque des objets à l'intérieur de ses œuvres. Et il a créé une chambre noire avec un mur où il y a une pellicule qui retient, en fait, lorsqu'on reste longtemps devant cette pellicule-là, notre ombre reste affichée pendant un certain temps, ce qui, en fait, va chercher un peu l'idée de la caverne ou les peintures rupestres qu'on a eues dans les premiers instants de l'humanité. And also we have et aussi on a un autre artiste, Luis Manuel Alcantara, qui en fait présente une vidéo. C'est un artiste qui est souvent en confrontation avec le gouvernement cubain et justement il est en prison là, pour 5 ans en raison des différents projets d'art qu'il fait. Et le projet qui est présenté là, en fait, c'est qu'il avait pris un costume des danseuses traditionnelles de carnaval qui sont comme un autre stéréotype aussi et il s'était promené dans la ville travesti avec cet habit-là. Et donc, c'est une vidéo où on le voit finalement se présenter dans la Biennale de la Havane, qui est un des grands événements d'art en Amérique latine. Et donc, en questionnant la position de Cuba par rapport à sur cette position de vendre le pays aux touristes. So the last artist that we show in this exhibition is Luis Manuel Otero Alcantara, who is, we present a video and in where he I would say he dressed the folkloric costume of woman carnival that is like another folkloric identity of Cuban woman, and he dressed this and I'm tired with English.
He visited like different places in Havana in the biennial.
He was in the biennial of the La Havana, who is the main artistic event in America Latina is, and so it was a shock. And he is in prison now for 5 years because he is always confronting the government with this project. So that's it. For me, it was a very good experience. I went 3 times in Cuba, and I share a lot with Renier Guerra, who is the current Cuban curator, and it permitted to me to see that even the difficulties of the materiality of doing art, it is very powerful what people can do, and it is interesting for Canadians to see what's happened in this context. Donc, pour moi, c'était très intéressant. Je suis allé 3 fois à Cuba, rencontrer Renier, et je trouve qu'il s'agit... En fait, c'est une très belle expérience pour moi, et malgré tout ce qui peut être difficile matériellement pour les Cubains, ce qu'on se rend compte en voyant l'art qui s'y fait, c'est une créativité extraordinaire. Et donc, on est vraiment fiers de présenter ça au musée de Rouyn-Noranda. Many people of Rouyn-Noranda are going to Cuba in the touristic place, and it is interesting to present to them something that is out of the touristic tours. So, donc, c'est très intéressant pour nous, puisque beaucoup de gens voyagent à Cuba, en Abitibi-Témiscamingue, parce que l'hiver est long là-bas. Et donc, c'est intéressant de présenter aux gens d'ici, de Rouyn-Noranda, des œuvres qui sont autre chose que des produits touristiques de Cuba. Donc, merci beaucoup.
Well, thank you very much, Jean-Jacques. Sadly, I can not do it in French and in English. But yeah. Well, I will love if you know, this is a kind of like a very informal process. Like if you have some question in the middle, like not be shy to, you know, asking, like no problem with that. Well, now I will, you know, I will talking about another project that I was working with many years in Cuba. Normally, as an artist, I am very interested in getting, you know, like getting very deep in the phenomenon. Also, like, you know, working with Cuba is a kind of more simple for this kind of social practice because it's my environment, like it's my country. I know, you know, what is happening more or less, but sometimes it's also like, you know, for actually understanding another level will be amazing to have like a collaboration with people that are coming from different fields. Like, for example, academics or, you know, people that are part of these communities, or in another, you know, in another strategy that I use a lot is actually working with the communities that I can be part of that. And, but all this process takes time, like to understand what is happening there. And after, I think like this kind of practice, you know, have so many different, you know, problems in like ethic and moral issues, like how from the art we can do it something with these realities, like, you know, taking like all this idea that because I am artist, whatever I am doing will be better for these realities, and just like be more pragmatic about, you know, what is happening there. One of these phenomena that I was working many years is the weekly packets. I don't know if you have know about this. It was like a very popular, I think, in 2018. A lot of people was, you know, writing and was in the news in everywhere. The weekly packet is a kind of version of Netflix, for example. Is a distribution channel completely offline and completely informal in Cuba, focused on entertainment materials. Like, because we'll just have internet, you know, years ago, the Cubans need to find entertainment materials, and, you know, piracy in Cuba is not good or bad. It's just the only way to consume this kind of material. This is why we don't have this issue in relation with copyright. Also because Cuba, you know, United States have a blockade, like economic block to Cuba, like the embargo. It's a kind of the only way to, consume this kind of materials or entertainment material in general is from this like pirate or informal ways. And the weekly packet is a kind of like a huge distribution, like a person-to-person way to sharing digital material using hard drive and USB. And it's for like, it's like in all the country, like it's a net with 12 million of people. I have a small video, I have a small section of the video right now that I use for exhibition that I make in Quiz Museum in 2018 that I want to share with you. Also, the video itself is an art piece because it was a collaboration with one of the first companies in Cuba that create advertising of private business, and also was a kind of this type of advertising. The weekly packet was the first channel for this advertising in Cuba. I wanna play the video that explain a little bit the history of the weekly. On the
In the early years of the Cuban Revolution, independent businesses, both domestic and foreign, were nationalized. Since then, goods and commodities have been managed by the government. The state has also controlled media broadcast and publication, including film and television, radio and print. For nearly a decade after 1959, there was little to no distribution of entertainment materials beyond what the government provided. Despite government policy prohibiting private enterprise, an illicit economy for renting paperback novels began to flourish in Cuba, building a distribution network that would influence the circulation of media for the next half-century. During the early 1990s, typical rental inventories began to expand to include magazines. Toward the end of the 1990s, many Cubans acquired Betacam and VHS video players. The owners of the underground rental businesses once again adapted to new formats. The network that was developed to exchange and sell printed materials became an important part of building new collections of videotapes. During these years, illegal satellite antennas also began appearing in the biggest cities in Cuba. The historic networks in place for distributing novels, magazines, satellite recordings, and DVDs were leveraged as an offline system for sharing online content. By this time, hard drives, USB memory sticks, and computers had become more common, but a large majority of Cubans still had no access to the internet. A change in state policy led to increased internet access within institutional spaces, and these conditions naturalized the process of downloading internet content to share later with those who lacked connectivity. Around the year 2008, this new sharing economy was formalized with a name and structure. Each week, a collection of the downloaded content was packaged and sold under the name El Paquete Semanal, or in English, the weekly package. The product grew quickly to a size of 1 terabyte, compiled collaboratively by many different people working together to select content. The package includes movies, documentaries, television series, video clips, music videos, comedy shows, news, magazines, digital books, antivirus updates, applications, and computer programs. Although the digital download format remained illegal, the Paquete established 2 rules with respect to the priorities of the government that allowed it to exist and grow without serious interference by the state. First, the Paquete prohibits the circulation of political or politically motivated material. Second, it bars the inclusion of pornography. There are 3 primary ways that the Paquete is accessed. Many Cubans purchase all or part of the package at point-of-sale businesses for DVDs and media. Other consumers have a paquetero, a delivery person who brings a hard drive to their home. The Cuban government has announced a goal for all Cubans to have in-home internet by the year 2020. Even if fast and open internet service was made available throughout Cuba, the U.S. embargo would still restrict online access to media supplied by certain content providers. It remains to be seen if the Paquete's ubiquity and relevance persists through continued technological and political change.
Yeah, well, the first project that I developed in relation with this reality was art section was a folder that I created in 2015 just to share my personal project in the weekly packet, because the sections in the weekly packet are very like popular. We have like a section for, I don't know, otakus or community of gamers or different like communities that have just his own folders inside the structural folder. And I just think like, okay, it would be very interesting to have a folder more focused in art or visual art project, digital projects. And this is why I come in with the idea. After I present my project, I think, okay, because I have this connection with this phenomenon, maybe I can invite artists, like not just from Cuba, for other part of the world, to have this kind of digital exhibition offline in a folder structure. And I started this project in 2015, and using this, I create a kind of like a mini weekly packets, but focus in art, when I can share like books or like magazines, calls, advertising about different projects that was happening in Cuba, and also a folder focused on art exhibitions offline. One of the last projects that I exhibited in Cuba was like Adam Barton, that is one of my favorite artists in the world. And also he created like the Dead Drops project, that is one of the like, I don't know, like one of the most important projects in the art history in relation with this kind of like informal nets. And we'll just present and develop like an installation of Dead Drops in Cuba. After I started to work in like with a weekly packet, I work in an older exhibition in collaboration with Julia Wells. Actually, the video that we'll see just, about the history of the weekly packet was part of this exhibition. Julia Wells is a new media artist based in New York, and we'll start to working together for this show. And for first time, I exhibit, a project in relation with this phenomenon outside Cuba. And this is why we'll, create a video to explain what was happening, create a kind of background for the people that was getting in the show. And also we'll, developing different materials in relation with this reality and some interventions that we'll create together. But the main installation was Arca, that was like one server of 1 year of weekly packet. Because another thing about this phenomenon is like, when do is each week will have like a 1 terabyte full of information with a structure of folder. It's a kind of the same structure of folder, but you just are, they are just delete everything and copy new things like all the weeks. And but it's very fast and it's very ephemeral. Like if you want to know what was in the weekly packet, a week ago, it's almost impossible. And for understand the phenomenon in another level, I think like the easy way was to try to create like a kind of archiving, this phenomenon for a period of time, like a year. And after that, it will be very interesting to know a statistic and understand more about what the Cuban citizens like about entertainment material or another material that are in the weekly packet. This was the setup of the installation. The idea was like in one projection we'll have like the structural folder, in the other side we'll have like more the videos, and was like actually very interesting, try to exhibit this in United States because of copyright issues. Like me and Julia and I will work together in collaboration with a lawyer from copyright for more than 6 months, just to try to find a legal way to exhibit this in the United States. And the final decision was, we'll must to create like, the only way to exhibit is just exhibit the 75% of age material, no more. And we'll develop a software that, just plain this 55% of age material. And this is the only way for, that we'll find for legally present that in institution in the United States, in using this like a fair use, like cultural and educational use. And was very interesting because after, I am working with this in Cuba, and definitely is not a issue in Cuba. And also we'll bring this project to Wonju Biennial in Korea, and nobody asked about any, and we'll just exhibit the project like with all the information inside. And now I will invite Stefan, that is almost sleeping because it's, yeah. And you know, I met Steffen because he's doing like a PhD in media in Cuba, and we'll just, you know, we'll just start to working together because we are like working the same topic. And one day we'll have like this idea to develop a project about the history of the weekly packet. And we'll come in with this idea. Okay, we can create a video game that is more like is a kind of a document of all this history, but in a way that the people can interact. Because with video games, you can just you make decisions inside the video game, and for us, it was a perfect media for do it. Also, you know, we and like Steffen and I will never working in a video game before, and we don't know how to do it. And we'll create, you know, we'll open a collaboration with a studio of like independent video game studio in Cuba that was also an older phenomenon that was starting in Cuba. And this is Packetown. I will present Steffen, and Steffen, welcome to the room.
Yeah, thanks so much for introducing me. Yeah, as Nestor said, I'm an anthropologist. I'm currently assistant professor for multimodal anthropology at the University of Aarhus in Denmark. And Nestor and I basically met like 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah, when I was coming to Cuba for my research on basically, alternative like kind of data distribution structures. I'm interested in like kind of how the growing internet access in Cuba impacts state-society relationships. And as Nestor has a very like kind of documentary-based and research-based practice, and so to say is also like kind of a para-ethnographers, we were like kind of immediately like kind of drawn towards each other. And I think we have a very different like kind of a very similar idea of like kind of thinking and developing project. And yeah, so since a couple of years we work together, and Packetown was a bit our Corona COVID project, which like took us like kind of 2 or 3 years or so to develop. And the whole idea started kind of when Nestor and I noticed how popular like business simulation games are in El Paquete Semanal. And also, as Nestor explained, El Paquete does not only contain films or music, but also like kind of software, no? And for example, mobile phone applications are always like kind of featured in El Paquete, because the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store are very much affected by the US embargo. So a lot of people actually have to go to physical app stores, which is like kind of these like kind of neighborhood data copying centers where you can also go with your phone, and they like kind of centrally download APK files or like kind of applications with like VPNs, and then like kind of copy them on your phone with a USB cable. Yeah, and El Paquete also is like kind of one way of distributing mobile phone applications. And when we were like kind of doing our interviews, we noticed and also browsing what's on offer in the Paquete, we noticed that Cuban people are really into like kind of business simulation games, like Farmville or Resort Tycoon or Pizza Syndicate or these kind of games. That I was immediately struck by that, because it's actually quite fascinating that like kind of Cubans are so obsessed with like kind of opening virtual businesses in like kind of a social kind of environment where where actually opening a small business is actually quite difficult, and where like kind of still 80% of the people are kind of employed in like kind of state jobs, in like kind of the socialist system. And like I think at some night in our favorite bar in Pasillo, we had this idea to do like a business simulation game about El Paquete that kind of reflects this phenomenon, and not just El Paquete, but also these kind of 50 years of alternative media distribution history in Cuba. So Nestor's grandfather was already in this business, renting out novels in the 1970s. So we thought it would actually be interesting to start our game in that era. And so basically from level to level, you can basically build your own like kind of informal media empire, like, and buy new equipment, buy new like kind of technology that like allows you, for example, to copy VHS or later like kind of burn DVDs, and yeah, until you kind of arrive in the contemporary present where you can like have a Wi-Fi antenna and like kind of steal the signal from like kind of the public Wi-Fi hotspots that the state has opened in 2015, and then download your own films and like kind of distribute them. That's a bit the idea of the game. Did I forget anything, Nestor?
Yeah. Well, perfect everything. We'll develop the video game with this guy from Conguiro. That is the name of this studio, like independent studio of video games in Cuba. And also, the first idea was actually develop a video game focusing Cubans and Cuban reality. And the first demo that we'll create just in 3 months will have like more than 10,000 downloads from Cuba. And we'll actually present the game in the Havana and in different cities. We'll, the game have like a kind of ranking, like a global ranking, and the beginning was like more like a national ranking. I was very interested to see how, who play more. This ranking was in relation with the happy customers, because the idea of the game is that you are receiving clients, like in the reality of the phenomenon, you are receiving people that want different media. And if you do it fast enough, if you playing very fast, you are having happy clients all the time. And most happy people do you have, like a more ranking you are getting. And the number one in Cuba after the first month was actually a paquetero that was working for the real phenomenon in Cuba. This was very interesting, and we'll create this trophy and we'll just give the trophy for this person. Yeah. And in a way, like Paquetown is also a way to, it's a kind of like a meta way to understand and create a statistic of the reality. Like first we'll have like the phenomenon, like a weekly packet. After we'll develop this game, and because we'll understand, like as an artist, we'll understand how this reality work. Okay, let's develop a video game, and after we are having like a statistic about people that have a directly connection with this reality, playing this and other like hyper reality in a video game. And we'll have a lot of statistic that is very interesting about what type of media the people like inside the video game. And one of the ideas is developing like a multimedia installation or some exhibition using all this information that we are getting from different media. The other project that we was working like also in the time of the pandemic was basic necessities. Okay, Stefan.
Yeah, so Nestor and I, we're not only like doing art together, we're also co-writing academic articles together now. And yeah, one of the phenomena we were really interested during the pandemic, and I spent actually most of the pandemic in Havana, was this phenomenon of like kind of the digital black market that like kind of became really big on Telegram and WhatsApp. So you probably all know that Cuba is like kind of constantly facing scarcities. If you've ever been to Cuba, you know that even like just buying a bottled water can sometimes actually be quite a problem. Very often, like kind of the supermarkets are quite empty, and there's this whole network of like kind of people privately importing stuff. Like kind of if you need, for example, a new iPhone or a new mobile phone, you wouldn't buy it in like kind of a proper shop, because these are all run by the state, and they normally don't have these kind of luxury goods. You would find them on the black market. And yeah, this black market during the pandemic, when all borders were closed and this like kind of private import business kind of came to a halt, because like most people who fly to Mexico or Russia or Canada or Guatemala or wherever to buy stuff, couldn't get out of Cuba anymore. things got really scarce, and also because Cuba still imports most of its food, like even rice from Vietnam, and also like kind of global kind of supply chains really suffered during COVID. There was like kind of like a really tremendous supply crisis, and it was really hard to even get the most basic products like milk, for example, or chicken meat or whatever. So and a parallel event was that since December 2018, Cubans for the first time had like kind of mobile data and mobile internet. Before, they could only go to like hotspots somewhere in the city, like most of the time that's public parks, where like you have to use kind of scratch cards that are also quite overpriced to have like kind of 1 hour of internet. But mobile data was really a game changer, also in political terms, but also in economic terms. So what happened quite rapidly after people all of a sudden had 24/7 internet access also from their homes with their mobile phones, is that this whole black market that was before like kind of really based on like kind of trustful relationships between people that really moved to Telegram and to WhatsApp. And a lot of people during the pandemic actually really had to like go to like Telegram, to these Telegram groups to buy like kind of basic stuff, like for example, toothpaste or cooking oil or frying oil or something, no? And this was actually like kind of a really interesting phenomenon, because what we quickly noted as well was that there was not only like kind of black markets group where like kind of things like were resold for like kind of super overpriced, like outrageous prices, but a lot of Cubans also created groups for like kind of the non-commercial exchange of things where no money was involved. And there were groups where people were sharing books, for example, or plant seeds, or where people would give medication away for free that they had left over, no, because like most Cubans like kind of are very familiar or like are very trained in this like kind of context of scarcity, no, and therefore don't throw anything away, because they kind of know that there could be somewhere out there who is in need of it. And particularly like medication also became very scarce during the pandemic. So we were really fascinated about these groups, and also about like kind of these social dynamics within these groups, and how people kind of navigate like kind of these ideas of the market versus like kind of these ideas of like kind of socialist solidarity. And we wrote an academic paper about that. And then at some point we were commissioned by the Photographers Gallery in London to develop like kind of an art piece for their media wall that you see here. And Nestor and my idea was to do kind of a 1 month kind of live transmission of the Cuban black market on Telegram. So we kind of chose 4 of like kind of the most important groups, or the kind of Telegram groups we found most interesting for a research project, and like kind of projected them on this like kind of media wall. And the idea was that like kind of as a visitor in this London gallery, you could basically participate, or you could get like kind of sucked in the dynamics of like kind of the Cuban black market. You know, you could basically throughout this month see how the prices develop, what products are on offer, what products that kind of disappear on this like kind of black market. And also because it was a photography museum, we are very fascinated by the visual aesthetics of like kind of how sellers in these black groups kind of market their products, how they photograph them, like kind of visual communication of these groups. That's also something we wanted to like kind of document and show to the gallery visitors. Nestor, do you want to explain the database idea? Maybe?
And you know, in this museum, the Photo Art Gallery Museum, you can see like this like a online structure from these 4 Telegram groups. But also we was like very interested in try to create a way that the people can research in all the groups in the same time. And because Telegram is an insane application, it's so open, and at the same time like it's very like horizontal in the way to be you are able to develop things inside this type of group. And because it's a lot of bot inside Telegram groups, we'll be able to actually working with multiple Telegram groups, like, and developing a kind of like a meta engineer, like research website, when the people can just get in and put some, like, I don't know, whatever, chicken or whatever they want to, try to find. And from this link, you could have access to more than 400 different Cuban groups on Telegram, and see, people are trying to sell in, or people are trying to share, or people are trying to exchange this specific, like, thing, like chicken or shoes or clothes or whatever. And also because, all these posts in Telegram groups are coming with tags. And it's a kind of like everything was like a very like ready for, working with this and with developing this a kind of like a online way to like have experience about this phenomenon, not just for the people that was in the gallery, also for Cubans. Was very interesting that in this time we'll just be completely like in connection with this group just for the period of the show. And many Cubans use this platform because it was more easy, that just try to find one thing in all the groups in the same time, that navigate between groups to try to find the one thing. And another project that Steffen and I working in collaboration is Fragile Connections. Fragile Connection is actually about to another completely different phenomenon, but very similar to the weekly packet. But this phenomenon is focused in the idea of like gamers communities in Cuba. Because the same problem, like internet, like the problem with the technology around this, like gamers communities, the Cubans, like young people or not so young, but the people are very interested in play, they started doing this like a LAN parties everywhere. And this was the first the first things that me as a gamer also have, the first time that I be able to play like video games with more than, not just with a computer, like with more real people, was in LAN parties. And these small LAN parties start to getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And some point they start to create this like a net that is, we are very focused in Havana reality. SNet is a completely offline net for video games for this community in Havana, but also we'll know that in the different cities in Cuba, we can find a small net like that. But what's very interesting that when we'll start to getting more and more deeply in this community, we'll know that this community is one of the most biggest in the world, because normally we have, in different parts of the world, you have this kind of like a network, like completely offline for different reasons, like hackers, like in a war, or some like a specific community developing that. But it's very weird to find a country that don't have access on internet, and the people just need to develop in this scale, like a massive net. And it's very interesting how, this, work in Havana. And we actually develop an academic research and a publication around this phenomenon. Steffen?
Yeah, exactly. Like Nestor said, no, this is like kind of a grassroots, internet replacement. You could say that, like in its heydays, connected like tens of thousands of users in Havana, which is like kind of a very fascinating phenomenon, because this network is really completely disconnected from the internet, but has its own like kind of aesthetics, its own kind of really self-made, also not only hardware, but also software infrastructure, And so we were also like kind of doing a lot of research and also writing an academic article about like kind of the specific like kind of social dynamics of that network, and also the specific aesthetics. And one of our research methods was that we always asked like kind of to do users of the network like kind of to do screen walks to basically so that was kind of an interview, like kind of an elicitation method during our interviews, that we kind of asked people on their own devices, on their own laptops or computers, to give us like kind of tours through the network and explain us like kind of their software infrastructure, or like kind of comment on like kind of their archive of images, And yeah, I think Nestor prepared like kind of a little clip. That is an interview with one of like kind of Net's first administrator.
Era la de distribuir la señal hacia todos los puntos de la ciudad y servir como nexos de información. En este caso, esto es un pilar en Miramar y se puede ver que tiene muchísimas
This is an admin from the net.
Algunas con conexiones directas, posiblemente fueran hacia otros pilares, y un sistema antirrobo de tipo sombrilla. Esto es una sala de servidores y todos los pilares tenían UPS para el caso de los apagones, que no se rompiera nada. La conexión de los servidores más la conexión del microtic, que se encargaba de todo el enrutado de la red. Y este es un servidor que se usaba para almacenamiento de medios y páginas web de la red. El objetivo era muy sencillo, era que los usuarios al final pudieran jugar, que pudieran conectarse, que pudieran
all these points are
ellos,
different servers in
todos
Havana.
estos puntos tuvieron la importancia de que eran los que permitían que la red funcionara justo como se había creado.
Yeah, well, for example, this is like a server in the middle of the city. It's not like a big like antenna, big structure like from, you know, like a company. It's just like a people that one person that is part of the community. This is his home, and because he lives in very like a, you know, high building, he just used like this area, and all these are like a nano station or some like a microtis, you know, Wi-Fi antennas, and each of these like device can get like more than 100 different usuariums, and this is how it's work. This was like kind of, you know, like was a completely informal and completely out the ground, like was not legal to do this in Cuba. And also in Cuba, all the problems with the government is because ideology, like they are fear about, if you are talking about political, you are trying to doing something together, engage with the government, they will attack like very fast, you know, with the security of the state. But because, you know, phenomena like the weekly packet and also this phenomenon always have this limitation about politic, because they are a gamer community. They are not involved in political issues. They have like this limitation, but also like for another way, like having this device in Cuba, in a country where you cannot find any store and buying. The only way was bring this device from outside, and actually was not legal to bring the device. If aduana will find this type of, you know, device in your bag, will take off, you know, and because of that, the only way was by like very, like, you know, playing with aduana, I don't know, like, you know, like, you know, like have the device in some part of your bag that the people can find in the process of aduana, or even have another process to get in the device. This technology was very, very expensive in Cuba. And because of that, a lot of people steal the technology in the roof of the building, because definitely was like, was not so difficult. And in the community, they started to create all these different like metal structures to try to protect this device. And also because of the weather, like in Cuba, it's raining sometimes, it's like, the sun is very strong, and they create all these like boxes and different structures for protect the expensive device. This like is like a regular server, you know, like normally it's like a very normal, like a computer, but with very like, it's like a very old from outside, but inside is very new. Like it's a kind of very good run and very good, like a video, you know, I don't know how to say, target or something like that. And sometimes you know, the structure are like a very pro, we can say, you know, you can see here, you know, here you can see like a very high metal structure and very like public. It's not, it's a kind of, you know, in Cuba we'll have like this like a very big gray area when this kind of phenomena are not completely legal, but are not illegal either, and because of that, it's not like a political issues or ideological issues, and the government just, you know, let it go as a community, and they are like you are walking to the street and you can see all the antennas in the top of the building, completely, you know, public. And yeah, this is actually a small video of all the cables, and it's a kind of chaotic sometimes, but it's working very well. Sometimes it's working better than some like official service from the government. And yeah, but Me either. And okay, and me and Stefan, like, we take all this information. We actually normally working together and with this idea to develop our research from academic perspective, and also try to have like some academic publication, but in the same time we are very interested in create like a intervention in our space. And the intervention in our space was this installation. This installation was part of a Warsaw Biennial, and I have like a small video to show you, how it was. Sorry. No. Okay, the idea of this installation was like try to create a kind of like a sculptural representation of what, is the physicality of this community, like one of these antennas, but also we'll use the methodology that we'll use for the academic research to, create these screen walks from different people that was part of the community, gamers, but in 3 different levels. Like, the community have like a structure of, we can say, hierarchy, like hierarchia, like a hierarchy structure. And we'll have like a, pilar that is like a kind of the director of any, different servers, or the director of the servers. We have like people that are working as a support, like the people can help you if you have some problem with some software specifically, or getting access to some like a video game, and usuarios, like people, from the net. It's very interesting. I coming from a country that is not a very democrat. It's not a democracy in Cuba, but inside these communities, they have like a very democratic process to make decisions in the community. They are always talking together to try to make some decisions. And this is more or less was the idea with this installation. Stefan?
Yeah, exactly. So as Nestor said, the kind of the 3 videos that you see is basically a focus group interview with like kind of
5 minutes. Sorry.
Yeah, so what you see on the 3 screens is basically kind of a focus group interview that we did with like kind of 3 administrators from the network, and it's all filmed on their like kind of on their desktops while they're playing like kind of the most popular games within the network with each other. And the English translation we did in the aesthetics of like kind of a TeamSpeak chat, and TeamSpeak is basically, maybe you remember, it's like kind of an old, a bit outdated Skype like voice over IP software with also chat that was very popular for like kind of online gamers, like for example in World of Warcraft, it was used a lot. Yeah. So you basically hear that interview, and like you can follow the match like kind of from like kind of these 3 different perspectives. And then the installation also functions as like kind of a real network node. You've seen like kind of the antennas up on the top of the tower. They're actually not working, but as you see on this photo down there, there's like kind of a router, and yeah, that gives you kind of access with your mobile phone to like kind of a documentation of like kind of the network's aesthetic. So as a visitor, you can basically browse through like kind of some of the offerings of the networks, and we also included like kind of a collection of like kind of our own research materials, some screenwalk interviews we did with like users and admins from the network, some like interviews, I mean photos we connected from like kind of the material traces of the network within the city. Yeah, so there's also this interactive component, and there's also a set of stickers. That's kind of the last interactive element. You have a photo of that as well? Yeah, exactly. So in TeamSpeak, all the users of the network, they're basically self-representing with like these like little self-designed logos, and you can basically communicate, for example, that you're in a relationship, that you like drinking, that you like partying, that you're a fan of a particular video game or of a particular football club. And yeah, so we invited kind of the audience to like kind of self-identify SNet style as well, and like metaphorically become a part of the network in that way as well.
Well, I think we'll have too much time to question, but
yeah, I hope we have some time.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I hope that this was not so tired.
Don't be shy. Questions.
Okay.
How do you guys deal with the rolling blackouts in Cuba now?
Well, yeah, big thing. Also, I think this is the most, we don't have a lot of food. Like,
Yeah.
another thing are very important. Like, but yeah, definitely blackouts is like a very big thing. For first time in the history of the country, we'll have like a completely blackout in all the country.
Yeah.
And was in part because of the hurricane, but also because of other problems that we are having, in the past. And yeah, it's like we in another countries, I know that the people have like a local plants with like gas or things like that. This is not so common in Cuba actually, because normally the power is a kind of very cheaper. It's not so expensive because the government give you like an older price, not like the normal price that you can find in other countries outside Cuba. It's like a subvention from the government, but it's even expensive for a Cuban, And we'll start to having like more and more blackout, I think like in a year, more or less. Before that was okay. In the 92 with the thing was very, very bad like now, and we have a lot of blackouts,
My dad told me about those.
Yeah, and this was like insane. I was a child, I don't remember completely. And I just know Cuba with no blackouts. And now we are coming back again to this. And it's not it's not solution. It's the thing. Like
Yeah, you guys just deal with it.
Yeah. Or like right now the people are bringing a lot of like a local generators with gas, but also we don't have a lot of gas. Like it's not like a completely good solution. For me that I am working with technology is like a very big deal. Like it's very big problem. But also the people for make food or live, like I don't know, hospital, everything is a kind of very big problem. Sadly not. I think I have a couple of projects that are working with solar technology, technology, and sadly the solar technology is not so okay. Like it's getting another problems. It's getting like after like batteries. Do you need batteries for that? And batteries are not good for the environment. And at the end, do you get a lot of energy in the day, but at night you are not getting an energy, and it's like a big issue because a lot of energy that was produced in the day just disappear at night, and it's not a completely a solution, but also this technology is very expensive. It's not so easy, and we don't have like a Niagara Falls. We don't have any way to develop an energy using another like a natural, and yeah, like the only way is using like a very like an old system that is destroying the world, and it's also not working because the factories are from the time of the Soviet Union. You can imagine that. Yeah, it's a big deal. Okay.
How easy and accessible technological tools to use the internet, like the phones and computers, the cameras, the tablets, how easy and like where do you get them, and how much is it, like who has access?
Yeah, well, it's
Can you repeat the question, because I'm doing it.
okay. No, for the people that are, well, how easy is to get technology, access to technology in general, so like cameras, cell phones, or technology that you can use for getting internet access in Cuba? Well, very difficult. It's not easy. We'll have like just one company that, just one company for a communication company. And it's a kind of like, it's for sure a governmental company. The name is Texa, it's a monopoly. And the prices are not so bad, but the type of technology that they are selling is not good. But as everything in Cuba, we have like a huge black market for people are, traveling outside the country and getting back all the time. And they bring a lot of technology. And after this is the way, it's a lot of statistic about, people getting internet in Cuba, but it's not just about the device. I think more or less the device is not the big problem. For now, the big problem is the price of the internet. It's very, very expensive. And even when the connection is very bad, the internet is very expensive because we'll not have like a big companies, international or global companies that have, that are right now like developing, or having in access in Cuba. The only company is just a Texa, and they just start to try to create all this net from zero. And it's a lot of money. It's not easy. And also for a company that is very small. And also at some point, the government is not completely happy to give like a completely open and free access. It's many different things. Like, we're not happy to everybody have internet access because it would be a problem. Also, when in Cuba we have like demonstrations, they take off the internet for areas. And another thing is that actually the access of this technology is very difficult because any company can come into Cuba to sell technology. And also for the government, it's difficult to buy technology because of the embargo. They can make business. They cannot buy any technology to the United States. The only option is, the other part of the world. And is very expensive to bring. That is many things in the same level, but yeah, it's not easy.
How is it brought in? What is it on the ground?
Well, it's a kind of very chaotic scenario. Like almost all the power structure is not on the ground. It's like, and most of the telephone communication is also the same. In some areas of Havana, they started to doing like that on the ground, and because are very old areas, and was very difficult to do it in another way. But yeah, it's like it's a kind of function of very old technology. Is almost like a cyberpunk in a way, but it's working at some point. Like sometimes not working, but yeah.
How restrictive is the internet in Cuba?
Okay, how restrict is the internet in Cuba? I think the big, limitation for Cuban people is actually the price of the internet. It's not so many. For example, I know in other countries that have like a more strong, censorship or limitation for the internet. Like for example, China, like countries like that. In Cuba, it's not like that, but we have a lot of websites. Most of the websites that are in relation with news that are not like a completely in, from the position for the government that have news from the reality of Cuba, they are blocked from Cuba. And it's always about ideology, but everybody in Cuba know how to use VPNs. And at the end, but all their limitations are not because Cuban government are also from outside Cuba. For example, all Apple Store is blocked for Cuba because all the servers that are all the the service or servers that are in Silicon Valley, because of the embargo, they have Cuba completely in a kind of block or as a country. And it's like at some point the Cuban citizens are in the middle of all these problems, like blocked from the Cuban government and blocked from companies because of the embargo, and it's a kind of very chaotic. Yeah.
I was wondering what your experience was like making content, right? And then would you do that again as a medium as much as it's crazy?
Yeah, well, this experience about like Pakistan was very peculiar because as an artist that working with different media, I think the process is working better with me. It's like I need to have like a basic knowledge how for example, a video game, how is the development of a video game that make me the possibility to actually talking with the people that is doing like the video game and try to understand what I can do it or what I cannot do it. And in this way, I normally spend time to learning. Like I know I have like a basic knowledge about programming in different different tools. I must to research how is the language inside the video games, like how is the process. And what's very interesting, I think, Stefan, like the first we have like a two-step of the video game. The first one was not working. We're like coming back again and start to rethinking the structure of a game and developing another. Like also we'll must to find money again to develop the second step, like the second process of a video game, and coming back again and with more ideas or more knowledge about how to do it a video game. But I don't know, like it's not like I don't think I'd never close a door, like maybe in the future, because I am a kind of a gamer too. Like in the future, I will love to develop an older project that have like a video game, but it's not like because I develop that I will try to keep in working with this. Is on me is always like ideas. Like I get ideas and I try to find the best way to represent or develop these ideas. And if it's a video game, well, I am happy to find a studio, like create like a more like an open collaboration, like try to see. I don't know what was your experience with the video game, Stefan?
Yeah, I mean, as you, I also didn't really have like kind of an experience doing it, and I think we had a lot of ideas, and it was like sometimes also a bit of a painful process to understand what's possible and what's not possible, no? And also how you make a game that's actually also like kind of rewarding as a player, no? Yeah, but I mean, we had the luck that we worked with like kind of Cuba's first independent game studio that had already like kind of made for video games, so they had a bit of an idea of like kind of what works and what not. And yeah.
And also was difficult because Stefan and I this is not the type of video game that I like it as a gamer. I am more like a shooters video game, like Call of Duty, for example. And Stefan is even not in relation with video games at all, but it's like it was very interesting, like at some point in a conceptual from a conceptual perspective, the solution of this, like try to connect this phenomenon with this type of representation was working very good, and this is why we'll decide to do it in this way.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a completely different thing to do like kind of a cool conceptual artistic intervention that at the same time also works as a video game that people would actually want to play. And I think, yeah, we were kind of more interested maybe in the conceptual initially in the conceptual aspects than in the actual gameplay. But I think, yeah, we arrived somewhere that worked.
Well,
okay, I'm gonna come here. So I see that people want to go home, and also poor Stefan is like midnight at this place, so maybe it's better to let him go. So, but thank you so much, and thanks for people coming, and thanks Stefan for being so generous and coming in so late at night. And thanks to Jean-Jacques.
Sure, it was a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Hey, round of applause.
Okay.
I'm going to
Remember about YouTube thing.
you can watch it on YouTube.
Okay, bye-bye.